Definitely recording. It has a stop recording button.
And Heidi's just logged in. So you're good?
Hey everybody, how are you doing today on this beautiful Monday morning?
Good.
Yeah, this is Karen Kounter, and I'm teaching the class today, and I have Bob here is with me taking the class. I had developed a cold last night, so I'm going to do my best not to hack and blow the whole session. But what you're seeing on the screen here is a copy of the listing presentation that Keller Williams provides for all of our agents. And it's in a PowerPoint format so that you can take it and put it on your tablet or put it on your iPad and take it with you to a presentation. I encourage you to, what I'll do is I'll find out who's taking the class, and I'll be happy to forward it to you. You can get to this presentation online on our Keller Williams website, but sometimes it's difficult to find it sometimes, so it's just easier for me to email it to you, and then take it and make it your own, and then you'll be set up the next time you have an opportunity to go to a listing. Before I actually get into the presentation, I wanted to tell you that we base our classes, our training classes here that we do, on the Ignite materials, and the Ignite materials are also on Keller Williams University. You can find them on there. Let me know the next time you see me. I'll be happy to show you where they are. But this is based on the Ignite Power Session number 14, your pre-listing packet and listing consultation. So what I've done is I've taken this curriculum and kind of pulled some stuff out of it that I think is important, and then put it into this discussion. Okay. So before I get into the presentation, I just want to do tell you some things from this Ignite material. So if you're going to be successful in real estate as a listing agent, then you need to master the basics of working with sellers. It's not just about getting the listing. There's other things that are just as important. It's being viewed as a professional when you walk in the door. It's being proactive in putting your marketing together ahead of time. And it creates confidence, and it gets a listing with respect from the seller. It's one thing to get a listing. It's another thing to get a listing when they respect you. It's going to make your transaction a whole lot easier to go through if they actually respect what you're telling them. So there's going to be different situations, different people that you're going to be dealing with from time to time. You might meet some people that are friends of yours, and they say, "Hey, I want you to come over and do a present. I want to list my house." So that conversation is probably going to go a little differently than if it was somebody that you were door knocking that you met, where you have no relationship with. There are also people that are going to call you from time to time on the phone and say, "Hey, I want to know what my house is worth." So you never know how much time you're going to have to put this thing together. So being prepared is really, really critical. So there's going to be time for different things. Sometimes you might have 3 or 4 days before you're actually going to meet with them, and then you have more time. Other times they're calling and they want you to come out this afternoon. So some of this is going to work some of the time and not all the time. Okay. So the first thing is to pre-qualify the sellers. Ask the questions ahead of time. So this is not in your notes there. So ask them, "Hey, how much do you owe on your property? When are you wanting to leave when are you wanting to move? What are your plans?" The more information that you have, the more that you can, when you actually do your presentation, you can talk to their issues. So asking those kinds of questions can be really helpful. Then there is a pre-listing packet. And the pre-listing packet, there is actually one online on our website as well. It includes a cover letter that just says, "Hey, this is who I am." It has your contact information on it. Then it has what my clients say about me, maybe a page of testimonials from your clients. It has a page that talks about you, which actually you can take a page right out of the presentation I'm going to show you that talks about you that you could include in that. Also, any miscellaneous brochures like a guide to selling your home. These reps come into our company and they have all of their flyers and stuff set up here in our training room, and you can come and grab different pamphlets about home warranties. Some of them say, like there's one over here that says how to prepare your home. There's just different flyers that they're providing for us, so I will put one of those just see what we have and go ahead and include those for your sellers. The other thing you can do is in the pre-listing packet, you can put a few disclosures in there for them to fill out. Like you could put in the TDS, which is the transfer disclosure statement. That's the one that they have to fill out about what the property has in it. Is anything not working? Because they're going to have to fill that out anyway, and so it just gives your packet some credibility when they see that, oh, this is stuff I need to look at. So if you can get that back sooner than later, then that's helpful. Now, once you have that pre-listing packet done, you can have it delivered. You have somebody that you know that does delivery, or you can drop it on their front porch, just hand deliver it, but the idea is to have it on their front porch so that they find it. Then as far as when you go to the listing appointment, you always want to confirm your appointment before you show up. You always want to call ahead of time and say, hey, this is Karen from Keller Williams. I'm planning to come to your home today at 4 o'clock. Just want to make sure that you remembered about me and make sure that we're still on track. I think it also shows credibility and professionalism when you call to confirm ahead of time. When you arrive, I usually am totally prepared to take the listing that day. So I arrive, I have my lockbox. I may not take it into the listing, but it's in my car. I have my sign. I have my camera. You can use your iPhones or your smartphones to take pictures. I have a camera that I use. I use both, but I use a camera, and I take the pictures with the smaller megapixels, just because they're easier to deal with. But anyway, so however you want to do it. And then I have my listing presentation, and in that presentation I always have my listing agreement. And I'll get back to that in a little bit, but I always have that with me ready to go as well. Now, if you were to take the bold class that we offer here from time to time, the bold training, they will tell you, they have a little different take on how to do a listing appointment than what I do. I'm going off the Ignite materials and what's more comfortable for me. Diana Kokoska is the leader of MAPS, and she's much more of a higher D and in your face and sign here, and you want to sell this, you want me to list your house today, right? She's just way more pushy. And if that's there's different ways to do this. This is just probably the more natural way for me. So at the appointment, you want to greet your sellers. You want to be friendly but not overly aggressive, and you want to set expectations. So I'm going to be going back and forth between the bold coaching and what we do here, because I think that there's ways to intertwine them that works really successfully. She would tell you, talk about Diana Kokoska, she would say when they open the door, take a step back. It just kind of takes body language. It makes them not feel like you're trying to get in the door, right? Puts them at ease. And she says she will look at her watch and say, well, we had an appointment today at 4 o'clock, and it's 4 o'clock, so here I am. So it points out to them that you're on time. And so as far as setting expectations, hey, I'm really excited to meet with you tonight. Hopefully we can get your house listed. So you're setting the expectation of what you expect to happen. Then you want to say, if you gave them a pre-listing packet, you want to ask them, hey, did you have a chance to review and complete the packet I dropped off? If they say yes, then you know that they've already read about who you are. You know they've possibly already filled out the TDS, so that's good. Then the third step is building rapport. There's going to be a class here this coming Wednesday where April's going to be going over behavioral style. That's really the DISC profile, which we talk a lot about DISC. You've had yours done, haven't you, Bob? You don't know if you have? Okay, we'll talk about that later. So the DISC is the D-I-S-C, D is the dominant, I is interactive, S is steady, and C is compliant. Yes, yes. Exactly. So there's a way for you to mirror what they are. If you go in and they've got pictures just smothered all over their refrigerator, they're probably a high I, interactive. And so interactive people like to talk about their family, like to talk about themselves. They just like to talk about anything. So if you go in and the place is just totally sterile, they're probably going to be, it could be that they're a high C. I'm not like putting people into pigeonholes here, but there's just ways to know what their behavior is. So if they're a high C, they're going to have more questions. They're going to want to read the fine print. They're going to, you're just going to have to customize your presentation for that type of person. So, but you can mirror their style and mirror how they act. That puts them at ease if you're like them. Then the fourth is to do a consult. Usually I will ask them, is it okay if we set up, can we put our stuff at the table? Let's try to sit at the table. Sometimes you'll go in and their table is cluttered or something, so maybe you sit down on a couch where there's a table. It's always good to sit around a table of some sort. Then I usually focus on the seller's needs, not your needs. So what I do is I'll say to them, before we get started, let me put my stuff down. I'd like for you to give me a tour of your home. And I'd like for you to tell me, point out the things that you think are important about your home or things that you're most proud of, selling points about your home. Diana Kokoska, she does it where she has them sit at the table and she has them fill out a survey, like a seller survey, and then she says, let me go take a look at your house real quick. I show houses every day of the week, and I know how to show a house. I will pick up on the things that are important, so let me just, I think she feels that that's a time saver. But for me, I like to build rapport with them by walking through their home. If I see that they have pictures that they've been to Africa, I might say, oh, you've been to Africa. It just gives me more rapport building time, so I prefer to have them walk me through the house. You get what I'm saying? Make sense? So then when we're talking about consulting, focusing on the seller's needs, not who you are, you want to be asking them, always be asking them questions. I mentioned this earlier about finding out where are they moving and why are they moving and when are they wanting to move and what are the benefits of them moving. So you want to try to consult on their needs. This is not about you talking about you. The more you talk to them about them, the more they're going to like you. It's a crazy thing. You think that the more you tell them about yourself, that the more they're going to like you, but it's the opposite. The more you ask questions, the more that they're going to find rapport with you. So then as you're evaluating the home, you're going to ask questions about what they really do like about the house, what are the 5 favorite things. And sometimes if they're really, really proud and they have a whole gazillion things on their list, I might say to them, one of the things I'm going to have you do when I list the house is I'm going to have you make a list of all the things that you're most proud of or things that you think a new buyer needs to know about your property. That gives them a place to brag about what they think is special, and you're validating what they think, right? So that works really well. I'm going to take a break here for a second. Got to blow the nose. Okay. Then what you want to do is, as you're questioning them, I've already mentioned this about figuring out their timeline, what price that if we're not getting into pricing here, but if they have, they already have preconceived ideas of what they think the house is going to be priced at. And then it's always a great idea to be taking notes. So take a little spiral bound or a clipboard or something where you're taking notes. Again, it's showing them that you're listening to what they're saying. And then at that point, I move into the presentation where we're going to be presenting your value proposition. That's a word that, a term that we use in the Ignite materials where we're talking about what is it that you bring to the table, what is the value that you bring, and knowing that, what your personal value proposition is. And within this presentation, it's going to talk about who you are, who Keller Williams is, what the seller gets, and then what your marketing plan is. Okay, so let's get into the presentation. I will tell you that this presentation is like, I think it's 26 pages long, and I don't use all of the pages. I'm going to show you the ones that I do use here in this presentation. So like I told you, you can go in and customize it. The very first page, it talks about what is important to them. And when I first saw this, this presentation, I thought, why in the world would you want this survey in the very beginning? And they pointed out, and I found it to be true, that when the very first thing, say to them, hey, on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being not so desirable and 10 being extremely desirable, what's the one thing that has to happen in this transaction for your experience to be a 10? And I may not read that whole thing. I might just say, look, if you had to say what thing is the most important to you in this transaction, what would that be? And this is where they're going to say, well, communication is really critical, or technology is really important for me, or we had an agent before and she would never return my phone calls. So this identifies where the items that are most important to them. So then as I find out what those things are, as I go through this presentation, I'm going to really push those items or reassure them about those things and why that same experience is not going to happen with me. So it's really helpful to know those things up front. And then if I could just add one more thing, what other thing has to happen to make your experience a 10? And I don't usually go into a third thing. I just usually do one or two. And that helps me, again, to know what their expectation is. This is about me, and when I'm going through this presentation, I don't read it line for line. I just kind of hit the highlights, and because I'm going to leave this presentation with them. I have a printed copy in my presentation folder that they're going to have. But this just says, hey, I want to let you know I've been in business since 2002. I've done residential real estate, commercial real estate, but I really prefer showing homes. I love to view homes, and I love to sell homes, so that's where I've put my focus. Technology is critical in this day and age. We know that 80% of buyers will go to the internet before they ever call an agent. So technology is even more critical than ever. And so it's something that I strive very highly to make sure that I stay in touch with all the different changes in technology. We have classes and such, and I might go into that a little bit more. Communication. I'm very easily reached by my cell phone. I text or phone calls, and I try to, at that point, I'm trying to figure out where the client are. If they're elderly and they don't text and they don't look like I might say, are you computer savvy? Do you know how to text? Oh, well, I know how to do it, but I don't like to do it. Well, then I'll make sure I give you a phone call. So that's where I would adapt it towards them. And then, most of my clients, I endeavor to be, once I make a relationship, build a relationship, I want to be their realtor for life. So I stay in touch with my clients. I want to be there for them down the road. And then my commitment to you is to give you the best service that I possibly can. And one of our slogans at our office is, it's a win-win or we don't do the deal. Everybody is going to have to feel good about it or we're not going to do it. So my mission statement is to have a career worth having, a business worth owning, and a life worth living. So then I'll say, what did I move to? I think I moved to the next page here. Then communication is really critical. Experience and expertise, marketing, pricing of your home is critical. Staging, I'm very, very good at staging, so that once we get the property listed, then staging is something that I will certainly be able to help you with. I'm going to take a break here just for a second, and little footnote is that you want to make sure, I've learned this the hard way, that you don't make any comments about their property or give them any tips on, they'll say, well, what do you think about this? Do you think I should fix this, or do you think I should fix that? And I've spent an hour at a person's house going over what they should fix and what they shouldn't fix, and then didn't get the listing. And so you want to say, you know what, that's one of my specialties, and I'm happy to chat with you about that after you've chosen me to list your house. I'll be happy to come back through and consult on what we need to do to stage your property. I was on a listing appointment one time, and I mentioned this particular client. The house had a lot of smoke smell because she smokes. And I made the comment that, I'm a little bit concerned with this house because it does have that smoke smell. And she says, well, I don't smoke in the house. She smokes in the garage. Well, it's still coming in on her person. And she told me she later ended up listing it with somebody else, and she told me that I hurt her feelings because I had mentioned that it smelled like smoke. So that's where I learned, okay, no comments until after you have the listing. So lessons learned. I'm passing my lessons on to you, okay? And then satisfaction is really critical. So as I'm going through this presentation on this page, I'm mostly just hitting the headlines. Okay, I'm not going to read it line for line. Then Keller Williams is a really is an awesome company. We're now #1 as far as agent count in the nation, and the reason that we're #1 is just because we do things differently than other brokerages. Technology is really critical. We have our own special listing site where we put our listings, and it populates out to more than 350 online search engines. And yes, as a footnote here, or side note, we do have a list of all the different sites that it goes to. It's actually says here more than 76,000 sites. I think we've been able to identify, I think it's like 900 sites, but some of them are membership sites where you have to pay sites, so you're not going to be able to find them, but for sure you will find them in over more than 350 sites. It's crazy. We have had a few sellers that have asked for a list, and we do have that list. So if you ever need that, I think Justin has a copy, or Cal in our office has a copy of those. Isn't that crazy? The high seas, some of them will ask for I want to see the list. And this is where I'll say Keller Williams on the next second paragraph there. It says Keller Williams has the philosophy that it's my listing, it's my lead. So that means that whenever possible, I'm going to get the call on your property. And who best to market your property but me? I'm the one that's been in the property. I'm the one that's had a conversation with you, Mr. Seller, and know all the benefits of the property. I would rather them call me to let me pitch the property to them than somebody that they're going to call at a real estate office somewhere, and they get a new agent who has never seen the property, or who has never done real estate for that matter. So that's why I think it's critical that I be the one to get those calls. So then teamwork is really critical as well. We have a great team of people within our office, and we work together to get your property sold. Knowledge. Our company has the top books in real estate training out there. So you can talk a little bit about that. Reliability is something that's very important to us, and we have a proven track record. Next page. This is the thing that they're going to be most interested in, is your marketing plan. So the marketing plan that comes with the presentation, I think says it's a 14-step marketing plan. You need to go through and look at what you're willing to do and what you're not willing to do. And just so you know, I have one that a separate presentation that I've made for luxury homes, and this is my one for normal homes, because on a luxury home you might want to say I'm going to have it professionally photographed, but on your regular transaction you don't want to promise them that. You're going to use your camera. I'm a professional photographer. I'm going to take your pictures. Make sense? So you might have a 14-step marketing plan for a luxury home, but not for a regular home, $150,000 home. You're not going to be doing that, right? So go through and notice that in the first paragraph it also mentions that it's a 12-step plan. So if you change the title and change it to a 10-step, make sure you change it in that first paragraph as well. Does that make sense? And so you can go ahead and I'll go down through there and talk with them about what I do on each of those items. This is a list of the different websites that their listing is going to populate. So that's a really nice page to kind of follow up on what we were just talking about on the previous page. Some sellers are going to like the idea of doing open houses, and some sellers are not. So usually when I start on this page, this is just how I do it. It's not like that it's how you should, but what I will normally say is, how do you feel about open houses? And then the seller might say, well, I don't like to do open houses. I don't want someone walking inside my house. Now, what I typically say is, most real estate people in the industry do a level 1 open house. They just stick a sign in your yard and hope somebody shows up. What I do is I want to make sure that if I'm going to do an open house, I'm going to get the most bang for my buck. So I get as far down this list as I can go. I rarely get to a level 7, because level 7 includes holding other agents on the same street, so that doesn't always happen. But I usually get down to a level 5 or 6 when I do an open house, depending on how much time I have to market it. So again, this just shows them that you have a system, and you have you go far and above most agents that are just going to stick a sign in the yard. So that's kind of how I approach that page. Okay? Make sense? All right, on the next page, I just say, pricing your property is critical. You definitely want to price it right to begin with, and you want to not be chasing the market down. So it's, we're going to be talking about how to price your property. I'm going to be encouraging you to be aggressive in how you price your property. Unfortunately, The market does not really care about what you paid for the what you paid for the house, what you need, what you want, what the neighbor says, what another agent says, or the cost to rebuild today. The market is going to bear what the market's going to bear. So, you know, the buyers are very savvy out there. They have access to all the internet, and they have access to Zillow and all these different websites that tell you what the values of homes are. And they will only look at your home if they feel that it's in the right range, that you really want to sell it. If it's overpriced, most likely they're not going to waste their time looking at the property. So it's really critical that you price your property correctly. Here's another slide that talks about the problems of pricing it too high and not being competitive. And it just talks about the percentage of buyers who look at property and which ones that they're willing to look at. Then this page talks about pricing the property, and I don't normally write the prices on this page because I'm going to take them to the CMA at this point, and we're going to go over the CMA at the end of this class on how to do a CMA. But for right now, I'll use this just as a place setter within the presentation. And so when I get to this point, then I'll go back over to my folder and I will pull out a property profile, which you guys know you can get that from First American Title. And you've seen a property profile before. It tells what the address, who owns it, the property characteristics. I'll verify the square footage with them. I'll say, well, according to this property profile, your property is 2130 square feet. It's a 4-bedroom and 2.5 bath. Is that correct? And they'll usually say, yeah, that's right. So then at that point, what I'll do is I'll pull out my CMA. So a CMA we do in the multiple listing, and I'm going to go back to that in just a little bit. We'll pull that up and let you see how we do that. So I'll pull out my CMA and I'll say, go through that with them. Based on my CMA, I think your house is going to be somewhere in the 220 to 240 range. I have a low of 220, a high of 240. So sometimes I've not been in that property. Most of the time I've not been in that property. I know they will sometimes tell me what they've done to it, but I don't really know the condition of the property. I don't know how it's going to show. Is it cluttered? You don't know until you show up. So I have a really hard time coming up with one firm price when you've never been in the property. So what I'll say is, you know, based on what I'm seeing here in the condition of your property, I notice that you have a few things like your carpet is badly stained. I'm thinking that probably it's going to be on the low end of the price range that I just gave you. Based on the fact you need a new roof, or based on this, I think it's probably going to be on the lower end. Or I might say, based on the fact that everything is pristine in this home, and I can see that you've done these upgrades, I think that probably we're going to be on the top end of the spectrum. So that's how I give myself some wiggle room so I can still look like I know what I'm talking about. So that I will talk about that. And then usually what I'll do is I will do a net sheet, which you can get through, there's a program that comes along with the First American login. It's called Cost First. I always want to say Cost Plus, but it's not. It's Cost First, and where you can actually plug in the numbers and do a net sheet. Have you seen this one, Bob? Okay. And this is where you will plug in the sales price. I didn't get back, but I'll let you get. So you're going to plug in what the sales price is. You're going to plug in what the commissions are. You're going to plug in any fees that you think that they're going to have to pay based on what you've just seen in their house. You know, if they have a wood shake roof, then you're going to have to maybe add some money. Put some money in there for a roof certification. Luckily, we're not seeing many wood shake roofs these days, but we still have some here in Yuba City. So also, if they're going to be offering a home warranty, you put that in there. And then what I'll do is I'll do 3 different net sheets. I'll do a low, a medium, and a high based on my range that I just gave you. So I'm going to do one at 220, maybe one at 230, maybe one at 240.
Do we all have access to this?
Yes. Yes. Janelle from First American can get you set up. You just need to call her and say, hey, I need you to help me, get this set up. So now if I've thought ahead, if I've had enough time ahead of time to ask them what their payoff is on their house, then I can plug in what their loan amount is up on the top of the right column there. If I don't know, I'll just say based on all these fees, this is how much you're going to be netting at the bottom bottom right, less what you owe on your payoff of your home. So most people have a general knowledge of what they think their house, what their payoff is, so they can figure out those numbers. Also, when you go through cost first, it does calculate what their taxes are on the bottom right. You'll notice below, right above where the net amount is, it'll say what their taxes are. So, you know, sometimes we pay in the arrears and sometimes we're ahead. So depending on if they've already paid or not, right, they might have a credit back. But that just gives them a more, I've seen some where they owe $1,000 on taxes and it's going to affect their bottom line by $1,000, and you probably want to be telling them that, right? You don't want, you want them to be you want to be as accurate as you can. Okay, so once I get to this point, I'm going to move ahead. I'm going to say here, there's some other pages here in the back of this presentation that will be helpful. It talks a little bit here about closing and what's going to be happening during closing. This is my team of people that I work with, and you can put your own pictures in here. Your favorite escrow officers. I have Jessica's name there. Rick is our broker. And then there's another, there's also a page in the presentation where you can have your testimonials. If you haven't already given them the testimonials in your other sheet, then this would be a great place for that. This page here just talks about, again, ways to prepare their home, things that they need to, just reminders and tips about that. And then there's a moving checklist that they can use. I often give my, my buyers a checklist like this when we're in signing disclosures. So, but this is a really good one for them. This is a really fun insert that I got from CAR, and so I put it on the page in my presentation. It talks about when safety guidelines for their homes being showed. So don't forget to take your keys, your credit cards, your jewelry, and other valuables from your home or lock them away. Remove prescription medications, firearms, knives, including the knives in the kitchen. So this is a really, really good form. Personal, don't leave bills, invoices, and such like that laying around. Family photos or anything labeled with names should also be put away. Do not let strangers into your home if they do not have an appointment. So you can see this is a great form, and I got it from the CAR site, California Association of Realtors, and I'm happy to forward that to you. Matter of fact, I should bring that to our next meeting this week and pass it out. Okay, here's the pages that I don't use in the presentation. This is the what my clients say, the testimonials. You can see that it's all bogus, right? Did you see that? It was all bogus. It was just all in Latin, stupid words, because they know that if they put it in here, somebody will use it, right? So they don't want you using it. Here's a great page where you can put the people, the service professionals that you use, and I actually have a separate page that I could add this to mine, which I think would be, again, it just shows them that you're connected with people in the industry that can help them. I don't use this page, but you can certainly do it. There's another pricing page, which I don't use, but you can. Here's another one that's really good. Here's another one that's really good, pricing ahead of the market. And then how does somebody win or lose with you? This one you could use on the first page if you'd rather than asking them, you know, on a scale of 1 to 10, yada, 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 what's the most important thing. Here's another a page that you could use instead of that one. And that is it. Yay! Okay, so that's for the presentation. So let me go back into my notes again here. Always during this presentation as you're giving, you're going to always want to be closing by asking closing questions like, can you see how this would be a benefit to you? And you want them to say yes. Constantly asking them, so do you understand why that's important? Yes. Can you see why listing with me would be a benefit to you? Yes. So as you're going through and throughout the thing, you always want to be asking those questions. So you want to set mutual expectations. You want to set their expectation of you, what kind of actions, communication, and service they should expect from you. And then you of them. You want them to know what their job will be, preparing their home, providing access, maintaining the home. You want to handle any unresolved questions or objections, like on the pricing of the home or on the commission. And then you want to close for the listing agreement. So are you folks ready to list the property now? Are you ready to list it tonight? Let's go ahead and get everything signed. I've often run into situations where they say, well, we're not quite ready. We have some things we need to do. Then I will always close to get them to sign the contract tonight and post date it. Well, how much time do you think you will need to have the house? Do you think you would have it ready by next week at this time? Well, yeah, we think we should have, probably we would have it ready by next Friday. Well, why don't we go ahead and sign the listing documents tonight, and we'll just post date it for next Friday. And then if something comes up where you can't get it done, we can always postpone it. But that way, since we're all here right now, let's go ahead and get it signed. And then we don't have to get back together for this. And I've found that to be highly successful. That way you get that commitment from them. If they've signed that with you, they can still go sign with somebody else because it's post-dated. But if they've signed with you, they're most likely not going to sign with somebody else. So you've gotten a commitment from them, you've gotten their signature on it, and now it's just dated for another time. So if another week goes by and they're still not ready, then we can change the date and have them initial it at any time. So that's how I do that. But you always want to close for that listing and get them to make a commitment to you. If they won't close and they're saying no, we're gonna interview a couple other realtors. Well, great. When do you plan to interview them? Would it be okay if I call you, or can I swing back by the house next week and chat with you again? You want to try to find out if they're not going to close with you today, when will they close with you, right? So you want to get as much information as you can. So in the actual listing packet, I have the listing presentation, I have the CMA, the seller's net sheet, and then the property profile, and then I have the listing agreement and the agency ready to go. And then I'll have miscellaneous sheets on how to prepare your home for sale. The other thing that I do is I go to the multiple listing, which I'm going to pull that up right here. I was hoping this would work. Oop. Bear with me for 1 second here. I'm getting on the MLS so you guys can see this. No, that's not what I want. There, that's what I want.
Yeah, but whatever.
Okay, so the other thing that I'll do is I will do the graphs. You go up here in the MLS to trends. Especially if the house that I'm trying to list is over a higher amount, so let's say it's over 300,000, then I'll come in here and I'll do the graphs. So we're going to choose Sutter County because it's got, for some reason, it's set up to do Butte County. And you just come on down to the bottom here and you put in the price range. So I'm going to pull this particular house was 240. So I'm going to do 200 to 250. You will see a much bigger swing on this if you do the higher end property. So any property that I do that has a higher end, hold on here, I got they want me to do a virus check at the moment, which I'm not going to do. Okay, so then you come down here to the bottom, you hit show chart. This is the stuff that Justin does every week in our meetings. This is how he calculates it. So it's really not rocket science. It's really a great, great report. So this shows that currently for the last month of March, we had 28 houses listed in this price range. We had 17 that sold, and we had 23 that went pending. So this says that in that price range, we don't have a significant amount of listings. You know, that shows a pretty low days on market, right? So if you want to see what the average price is, you go up to this tab. Average price per square foot is in the month of March was 117 days on market. 44 days on market, average continuous days, and then this right here is sales price percentage, so that's percentage of what it sold for, of what it originally started at. So these are great graphs to take to your clients with you, especially if you're in the higher end homes, because they think you're going to put that house on the market and that there's a special and it's going to sell. And then you're showing them that, look, there's 57 houses and only 4 of them sold, in the month of March. It kind of gives them, it paints a pretty bleak picture, and so therefore you're going to be able to get them to come down on their price a little bit. It's going to help you with your pricing a lot. So I'll put these graphs in there as well with my report. Then after they've signed the listing agreement, you want to set expectations of what's next in communication, how often, and then what the process of escrow is going to be. If this is the first time they ever sold a home, they're going to need to know that. So, Mr. Seller, the first thing that's going to happen is we're going to put the house on the market. I would expect that we would begin to have, we're going to list it on Friday. We should probably get some showings on Saturday. And so you need to be prepared for that. And I'm hoping that within the first 2 weeks, being that this is a spectacular house and there's nothing like this around, that this one will probably sell pretty quickly. I'm hoping that within the first 2 weeks, and you want to be cautious when you put up probabilities out there, but possibilities. I'm hoping that this is what will happen. But of course, it just depends on the market and what other houses. Yeah. So, but I'll set the expectation. I'm hoping that within 2 weeks we can have it sold, and then we'll be moving into our inspections and so forth. Once I get offers, I'm going to do a net sheet for you so you'll know exactly what amount you're going to be ending up with, which will help you in your planning. And I'm going to be communicating with you once a week. Make sure that whatever you commit to do, that you do. And then I always try to, within the transaction, each time I see them, say, okay, here's what's happening next. And I do this with my buyers as well. Okay, we put the offer in, what we can expect that was within 3 days, we'll get a response back. Once we get accepted, then we'll begin our inspection periods. Those kinds of things, just constantly educating them, because we take it for granted that they know, but they don't most of the time. So what you want to be doing is you want to get this presentation and get it figured out how you're going to use it, and then you want to practice it. So you want to try to shorten your presentation time. You want this thing to be done. You want to be able to get through this in 15 to 20 minutes. That's why I'm saying I'm not reading every line. I'm just hitting on the highlights. Get to know your market data better. The stronger you know your market in that particular neighborhood, the better off you're going to be. And then learn to read the seller's personal styles and mirror them. If they're a high D, then they just give me the facts and let's move on. They don't want all the detail. Just give me what's the bottom line. That's how they are. So if they're a higher C personality, they're more calculating, then they are going to want more details. But the more you mirror, the better off it's going to go. And then always ask for referrals. My plan is to do such a great job for you, Mr. Seller, that you're going to tell all your friends and family about me. By the way, do you know of anybody that's looking to buy or sell right now that I could help? So you want to be training them to give you referrals through the escrow process, and even mostly after, but even in the middle. Because I often learn that people that are buying and selling houses seem to find other people that are buying and selling houses. They kind of find each other at work and that sort of thing. If your sellers are moving, you want to ask them for the ability to refer them to a new market. So, oh, you're moving to Seattle. Have you spoken with the realtor yet there? No, we haven't. Would that be of help to you? If I could find a really, really strong realtor in the Seattle area, would that be of benefit to you? Well, yeah, we'd like that. Okay, well, let me call some managers that I know from that area, and let me find out who the best agent is in the area for you. So you're, again, providing them a service, right? So that's really successful, makes you successful. So then you say, thank you very much, I'll be in touch, or whatever the closing is, and you're out of there. I want to go over how we do a CMA. And different people do them different ways, but this is how I was taught to do it. So this is kind of what works for me. So we want to get out of this trends thing and go back to the MLS. What we want to do is we want to do a radius search. This is where you're going to put the subject property in. This is a house that I just listed, so I'm doing the one that I already have listed. And street name is going to be Valley View. Whoop. And then you're going to want to mark residential, obviously, duh. One house on one lot. Then you want to pick up all your sold, your pendings, bring back up, and maybe your contingents. And notice right here that it automatically picks up anything sent like the last 4 months. Let's see. Yeah, it usually picks up the last 4 months, 120 days, because that's what appraisers often look at as far as market data goes. So then we're going to go on down here a little bit farther. And then we're going to put in the structure size. On this particular property is 2130 square feet. So we're going to say we want 1930 square feet, anywhere up to, say, 2330. So we're going to go 200 square feet plus or minus the subject property. And again, we're looking at this like an appraiser would. And so an appraiser usually will take somewhere between 200 and 300 square foot plus or minus a given size. Now, Bob here in our class is trained as an appraiser. So is that what you were trained to do? What square footage do you normally look at?
I would look and see the number of comparables that would support. So if, you know, you want to be as close as possible because you want the most similar properties.
So would you pick 200 or would you pick 250? Or
I would just do like a, you know, and it allows that, I don't know, but I usually go to the tax column.
Okay.
To do the comparison.
Okay.
And then set a percentage. I think the lowest is like 10%.
Okay.
So I would set it to a percentage.
Okay.
You don't have to worry about adding or subtracting.
Yeah. So, but on a 2,000 square foot home, 10% is 200 square feet.
Sorry?
So yeah. So 200 to 250. And what I do is if I can't find anything close by that's 200, then I'll go out to 250 on plus or minus.
Might go further away.
Or
Or longer out.
Yes.
You know, all those.
Yes. And so what I do is I start with the smallest amount of, or a tighter look.
You want to go
And then
for a tight pattern.
a tight pattern, and then if I don't find anything, then I'll back it out and go a little bit more square footage, a little bit farther out. So right now we're set to a quarter mile. I'm sorry to say acre, and that wasn't right. Quarter mile out right now.
And they're set at 4 months, but really appraised at 6 months.
6 months, and so we can go back farther if we can't find anything. You're correct. You're correct. So you don't want to have an appraiser in your class when you're teaching a class on this. I'm just kidding.
It's like being an ex-smoker.
Yeah, he's an ex-appraiser, so those are even worse. Okay, so here's the one that I just listed at 1406, Valley View. There's another one here listed at 136 a foot. There's another one. There was one here on Queens that sold, and there's one on Dana that sold. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to revise and go out a little bit further from a quarter mile to a half mile. And now let's see if we get some more here. So here's the two on Valley View. There's one on Peachtree Lane that's back on the market as well. There's one on Greenwood that's active. Here's one on Queens. Here's one on Messina that just pulled up. I'm going to go back out here, and I'm going to enlarge my square footage just a little bit. Hello. Sorry, guys. Yeah. Gotta find the right button. These laptops are not always great to use either. I'm going to say I'm going to go 1900 to, let's say, 2400. See if I get any more results. I'm mostly looking for the solds that would work. Okay, so here I've got a few here. This is just a little bit hard on this one. So I'm going to pick the ones that I want to use as comps. I don't want to use this one. I probably don't even want to use this one. That Geary went away anyway. Let's see. Dana Way was at 114. I might not even really use this one. So when you click on the CMA portion, you're going to come over here and click down on standard CMA. I like the landscape version. And you can do the PDF file and go up here and hit go. And so here's, the thing is, we like to look at the solds. You know, we've only got one sold. So we've got one here at 137 that just closed the end of January. And then we have a bunch of them up here, and the average dollars per foot is 135. So the one that I listed, we listed at 130 a foot based on, you know, here's one that sold before. And you got some of these that are at 149, but this one's been on the market 33 days. This one is at 125, and it's been on the market 121 days. So this is where we would say, you know, it's probably going to be in the somewhere in that 130 range, maybe 125. It's hard, you know, sometimes this isn't an easy. It's a snapshot, you know, it's not always an easy science. So I probably would go back and look at this one on Messina to see what did Messina look like. Whoop. Whoop. Let's do it like this. So it looks like it's a newer home, obviously newer. Looks like it's in very, very good shape. Looks like linoleum on the floor, but they have granite. Maybe it could be tile.
Looks like my lino.
Yeah, it looked like linoleum to me.
Yeah.
That's nice. Good tile job. So this particular house that I'm comparing to this one doesn't really compare as much because mine's much older, but there have been a lot of upgrades to mine. Mine also has the granite in the kitchen, has all new cabinets. So we priced it at 130 a foot, but it also has a pool. This one doesn't have a pool. So we priced it at 130 a foot. So then once you have it in this format, like I did, I went to CMA, sorry, and I usually will print that. I usually print this out, and this is what I put in my presentation. And then what I'll do is I'll write on the bottom of this page a low price, a medium price, and a high price. The high I wouldn't go over probably 135 a foot, just based on what the other one sold for. So I don't know if that's helpful or not, but that's kind of the thought patterns behind doing a CMA. Does anybody have any questions? I think you can put it in a chat mode if you have any questions regarding that. So then I would come out, like I said, I would have a low, a medium, and high, and then I would do a net sheet based on those three different things. What you could do here is you could actually go out farther, do a farther radius to see if there's any other ones a little closer, since you really usually want to have more than one closed. Obviously, an appraiser is going to be looking for 3 closed. And the other thing that I want to mention is whenever you have an opportunity to look at an appraisal that's been done, it's always worthwhile to look at to see what kind of values they're giving for things. Like I've seen usually where they'll give $5,000 for an additional bedroom, or maybe $10,000 for a bedroom. They'll give $5,000 for RV, for, you know, because one house has an RV and the other one doesn't. I've had 2
appraisals, and one knocked off 5 and the other knocked off 10 for highway noise.
Oh, okay, so 10,000 or 5,000 off for highway noise if your house backs a freeway. So it's really helpful to have those amounts, because when you have 2 houses that you're comparing, and we're not trained appraisers, but so it's helpful to have the mind of an appraiser, because that's really what we're trying to do. We're trying to get as close to that where that value is. So looking at appraisals, like if you have a buyer, you always have access to the appraisal. Look at it to see what kind of value they gave for things. They might
the best with the potential lenders and buyers. So
yes.
You have to be within that.
Yes. So I've also seen where they've given a $10,000 credit for a new house versus an old house, one that was built in 1970 or 1980. Age adjustments. So they'll give age adjustments for that, because that's sometimes you have a new house that's sold and then you have an old house next door, and so how do you compare them? So looking at those appraisals or having a relationship with appraisers is really critical. You know, it used to be that we got to choose our own appraisers. Now we don't, but that doesn't mean that you still can't have a good rapport with the ones that are here in town. So whenever you have a chance, an appraiser calls you, they'll call me from time to time on a listing that I closed, and they have questions. Hey, I just want to ask you about that house you closed 2 months ago over on Germain. Did it have new carpet or did it have old carpet? Well, it had old carpet. You know, so you want to get back to them and constantly help them, because then you can build that rapport with them so that when you have a question about a property, you can call them up and say, hey, would you mind giving me some advice on this property? And they're happy to do that if you create that relationship, right?
Remember, it's only opinions.
It's only, yeah, they're just opinions.
They're not facts.
They're not facts, but we have to have their opinion in order to close a deal. Right. So it's helpful to have that knowledge. So I think that is pretty much it for today. If, do you have any other questions, Bob?
The only other thing, when I do CMA, I'll go into the tax thing, and then that'll tell you what kind of financing and stuff.
What kind of financing that they had?
That might be helpful.
Yeah, and you can see that on the property profile as well. It'll tell you at the bottom the last transaction that they did.
How much they financed. And
how much they financed, yeah. Something came into my mind and then it quickly left. That's what happens when you get older. Like it was there and it was gone.
All the time.
Yep, yep. Sometimes if you can call an appraiser if you need, I kind of repeating myself a little bit, but if you need help on a property like I'm getting ready to list a ranch out towards Oroville. It's kind of between here, Oroville and Marysville, and it's on 7 acres. But there's no tree. There's a few fruit trees, but not, you know, it's like the whole thing isn't trees. So how do you value that? There's no water there. So how do you find a comparable for that? So we're going to call an appraiser and just have a little chat with them about, hey, you know, have you appraised any properties out in that way? And
usually it takes a different
kind of appraiser.
Specialty for an appraiser. A lot of them won't do rural properties only because they can't have access to comparable
Right.
pictures and
Right.
stuff like that. So you get somebody that really deals with the rural stuff.
Right. I'd like to also recommend that here on the MLS, when that you check other sources for your closing. For your comps. So if you go to the map feature, then you're going to map these properties. Hold on a second. I need to minimize this thing over here. Oh, here. You can go over here and you can actually pull up other things that have closed that are not on the MLS. So here's your MLS listed solds, and then here's other California county recorded transactions that have sold. Look at all those. These are all the other sales that have happened that were maybe for sale by owner, or they could have been refis too, possibly. So sometimes you can pull up what some of those are. So this one here sold on 11/7/14 for 204, 258. Let's see what this one is. County recorded. This one sold for 210. So you can use this as there's other comps out there. And so what you can do is if you get you could run it like this, and if you get the sense that there are some other things, then go out to your First American Title Company to that site and run the comps on the property there. There's a place for you to pull comparables within the First American site and then compare the two. Because we have an issue here where we have Sacramento agents that are coming up and selling properties here, but that doesn't get put on our MLS. So don't just use your MLS for your comps. There's other places to get them. The other thing you can do is, I don't think Mary knows this, or probably Heidi either, but you can come out here to Quattro. Quattro, from what I understand, is like 4 different MLSs put together, integrated somehow. And so you can come in here and you can do a radius search just like you did on the other site. Let's just do it for curiosity's sakes, just to see what else shows up. contingent. Now this site does not have as much information as what ours does, but
Yeah, less filters.
let's just search it and see what else comes up. So we have these two on Dana Way, and look at here, this one was, oh, there, it's the same as the one below. Okay. So in this case, there's nothing else that showed up, but there could be. Like this one was put in the Sacramento and the SYAR, so that's good. They double booked. They put it in two places, which is good. So you get my point. You get my point, though, that there are some additional comps that you can find if you are looking for them, and how to find them. So I think that will end our class today. Mary, if you have any questions, you can call me, or Heidi, if you have any additional questions, you can call or email me or whatever. Oh, hold on. Let's see. Oh, I got a comment. Hold on. Thank you, Heidi. Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you very much. Good job.